I'm Gary Hunter, a marketing professor.
As you watch an ad, or as you watch a commercial, or if you read a print ad, or if you see something on YouTube, or if you're exposed to a viral marketing campaign in some sense, or if you go to a website, that you can see, okay, well, what is it that I think this company or this person or this individual is trying to accomplish? What's actually happening versus what's not happening, and to be able to be critical about how you might go about improving their different communications tools working in reverse. Okay, so segmenting, one of the most useful ways of segmenting markets, of course, as we've talked a lot about value, is to try to figure out ways to kind of get at value-based segmentation. So a value-based segmentation is essentially trying to look at markets and say, what is it that the different markets value? So if we could kind of take markets and break them down by attributes, these are the different attributes represented in a particular market. So the example or the case we used here was the Portland Trail Blazers. So is it seat location as an attribute that's really important? Or is it the games or the opponents that the Portland Trail Blazers are playing that becomes very important? And how important are those? So by looking at different attributes and different levels, so someone might put some weight into the seat location, but maybe not as much as they might put into the actual games that they would go to. And then, of course, the cost or the price of those different options and concessions, for example, was another attribute. As we vary those different levels across different attributes and provide customers in a particular market choices between those, we can give them different stimuli that would give us data and information that says, how are they sort of making their different decisions? As we do that across different customers, we can essentially see which customers are sort of using the same heuristics to make the decisions that they're making and create clusters of customers based on how they're kind of weighting out those different choices. Those clusters of customers, of course, are what I've referred to previously as segments. So as we do a cluster analysis, we develop these different segments, and then we can decide which of those segments are of interest to our targets. So these are sort of the steps of conjoint analysis. It gets at the idea of kind of relative importance. What's the value of each product? How would we sort of design a product, sort of find the optimal product based on sort of the segments that we're targeting? How can we sort of, one of the other uses of conjoint analysis is getting at this idea of estimating market shares under various scenarios. So if I know sort of if I have a sample that represents a population of customers that I might want to target, and I have a conjoint analysis on that, I could estimate market shares by saying these are the different products that would be available to those different customers. And by saying these are the different products, I could figure out based on their weightings of those different products, the attributes those products would have and the levels on those attributes. I can essentially figure out how customers, which particular product a customer would choose, which gives me essentially a way to estimate market shares under different scenarios. It gives me a way to kind of evaluate how sensitive they are to pricing. And it also gives me a way to kind of assess cannibalization. So I can figure out if I'm thinking about introducing a new product and I know what the current market is, the before market, and my new product, I know sort of what the attributes and the levels on that new product will be. I can essentially kind of test within my data set which of those choices the market would make in the aftermarket simulation, so that I can figure out, am I basically losing share by introducing this product? Is the cannibalization coming from my other products, or is it coming from my competitors' products? Okay, so it helps, of course, with identifying what is it that people value and what are the market segments that are out there. So that's sort of the uses of conjoint analysis. So in the targeting decisions, targeting decisions sort of start with the idea of how do I narrow down? There's some set, so if we thought about it very broadly, there's some set that says, okay, these are all the customer needs that might exist. There's some generic market that's out there, or do we kind of go into different possible target markets? So we look at homogeneous, narrow product markets, and we try to say, okay, which of those? How would we kind of split those out and say which of these particular targets do we want to select, or which of these segments do we want to select and target? So we might have a single target market approach where we're just kind of doing the same thing for all the markets. We might go for multiple target markets. or we might do combined target market. So that is, in a combined target market, that's basically where we've identified multiple target markets, but we're essentially using a combined approach to try to reach those markets, as opposed to kind of doing a lot of refinement to the marketing mix to try to get reach them in different ways. Okay, so marketing strategy then is kind of thought of very simply as a target market and a marketing mix. So marketing, as we're thinking about different target markets, we're often saying, okay, how can we develop some marketing mix that would create value between the mix itself, that is the features or the attributes of the product, and the market that appeals to each of those different target markets. So the marketing mix isn't simply just 4 different decisions about what's my price, what's my product, what's my promotion, but it's essentially all of the different components that you could change about the offering itself. And the 4 Ps are ways to kind of think out again to get more broad about, is it really discounts that we need? Do we need a different, do we need to use different rebates if we're an automobile manufacturer? How do we kind of play rebates in? Is rebates affect the pricing decision? If we make over-the-counter cough medicines, how do we use coupons? Do those coupons at the consumer level help? Or would it be better to kind of use different strategies and use off-invoice allowances or trade promotions to try to facilitate the getting our products to market in those ways? But those are both kind of ways that sort of affect pricing, ultimate pricing of a particular good as it gets to the market. Okay, so the intent of the 4 Ps is to think about, isn't really to kind of capture all that you need to think about. So a lot of, I mean, we haven't talked about it in class this way, but a lot of times the 4 Ps are taught in a way that essentially starts with product and says, okay, now I have a product, what do I do next? But one of the objectives I've had in the course is to try to help you to say, okay, you can think about the framework in a way where you start with anything first and just kind of dive in. But the key is to think about, to use the framework to think about, well, what else is important? If this is the product that I'm going to make, what else should I consider? If this is the place, if my career objective or if I'm kind of driven by a need or a desire to stay and live in Cleveland, then place could be kind of the dominant component of my particular strategy as I become an entrepreneur and kind of think about how I might develop and grow my business. So sometimes it might be based more on price. That is, maybe I'm trying to start a company. I'm going to start essentially with very limited resources. And so what are some of the types of businesses that I can start with limited resources? So all of these are different ways to kind of, you can start essentially anywhere within the framework. But the ideas are to kind of use them in an interactive and interdependent way. So some of the decisions that I make about price or place or promotion have effects on other decisions. So if I took a place objective and I said I want to make my beverage available or I want to make Coke available at every beverage occasion, which is Coke's place objective, then that essentially to do that across the globe takes an enormous infrastructure and has other constraints that one has to consider to kind of think, is that really the right place objective for me or not? So thinking about them interactively and interdependently is sort of important. And to see how there's some simultaneity in the decision makings in organizing your thoughts. Okay, so one of the questions that I get sometimes is this question about, this is more post-course. A lot of times I'll get a question about, I need to develop a marketing plan. This is easy money. This is the low-hanging fruit in marketing consulting. Lots of people are looking for marketing plans. So a marketing plan is essentially what we've covered throughout the entire semester. That's just based on you've got a target market and a marketing mix. That essentially represents your marketing strategy. All you have to do in terms of developing that is add time-related details. When are you going to try to accomplish which components of the strategy, and that essentially becomes your marketing plan. If you add all those plans together within a firm, that's what a firm calls its marketing program. So that's sort of some of the terminology. So you shouldn't shy away from opportunities to make easy money developing marketing plans, because you've got all the tools that are required to do that. Okay, so marketing strategy then, when you think about the P's, this is sort of just a list. So if you're more of a list-driven type of a person, this slide kind of gets into what are some of the things to think about that you might associate with each one of the 4 Ps that become relevant to your decision making. So as we get depth on the product side, some of the product strategies that become important are often firms are trying to figure out how do we develop a strategy for growth. So how do we grow the particular product, or how do we grow the firm? And so this matrix is essentially a way of thinking about baseline strategies on product development. So you could start with an old market, or you could start with a new market, and then you're going with either an old product or a new product into those different markets. So the concept of market penetration is basically the old market or old product. Sometimes the word instead of old that's replaced there is an existing product or an existing market. So if I have an existing product that I'm selling in an existing market, my strategy for growth might be to sell more or to get more share of that particular market. That's a strategy for market penetration. Another strategy I might have is to introduce a new product. So I've got a product that's different from my existing product, but I'm going to try to sell that to the existing market. One of the ways that sort of relates to customer relationship management in this regard is that I might have multiple products that the firm offers, and part of selling to an existing market is often selling to an existing customer. So if I can cross-sell a customer on a particular product, that I can kind of implement a product development strategy that sort of gets my new products to existing markets. If I'm going to new markets, and I'm taking my existing product to new markets, so if I'm taking an existing product and I'm going to try to go global with that particular product, that's a strategy that's called market development. And then finally, if I've got a totally new product and I'm going to a totally new market, that's referred to as product diversification. So all of these are just kind of baseline strategies of thinking about expanding products to try to grow the firm. This slide is a slide that's called the product life cycle. Sometimes this slide has a 5th stage. So from the reading, as you guys would recall, there's a 5th stage that's the research and development stage that's before the product is ever introduced. And it's in that stage that the company is going to take losses as they kind of invest in research and development. So that investment in research and development kind of precedes the market introduction stage. So the market introduction stage is essentially when you first introduce or start selling the product in the market. And what you're trying to get after introduction is you're often trying to kind of get growth over a period of time. So you're trying to get that growth to kind of occur, and the profits essentially will start to level off in the growth stage. When you get into market maturity, the sales sort of level off, so the top line levels off, and the bottom line you can often start seeing declines as your market sort of matures, because what happens is you start getting more and more competition, and the competition starts taking some of the share that you might have had, so it starts becoming more difficult to kind of maintain. The final stage is called decline. So this sales decline is when your sales start going off and your profits kind of start falling off. So what firms are often trying to do is to prolong the different stages. So a very popular strategy in mature markets is to use what's called is trying to create scalloped patterns on the product life cycle. And scalloped patterns are essentially patterns where as the curve starts to turn down, you're trying to introduce a new and improved product to get the curve to go back up. And you kind of repeat that process over time, and that essentially creates a scalloped pattern in your product life cycle. Okay, so the other part that's important with products to understand is that people differ. So people differ sort of in their readiness to try new products. So if we kind of went back and we took 2 axes and we said we're going to put the number of adopters and time together, we could think about innovators as being kind of the first set of people who kind of go into a particular market. And the way strategies are, a lot of times marketing strategies will think about this, is if the innovators have effect on some of the later adopters, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, if they feel the innovators are going to have an effect on those bigger markets, bigger portions of the markets, then they'll often try to influence the innovators. So you can kind of have this pioneering strategy. So pioneering advantages kind of fall to the people who sort of go after innovators and early adopters. And so sometimes your product can be associated with a particular category. So in the South, obviously where I hail from, The beverage colas are referred to as Coke often, as Coke is the pioneer. Other examples of sort of pioneering advantages that stuck is that facial tissues are often called Kleenex. So these are sort of pioneering advantages where by getting in first, those companies and those brands were able to sort of have the whole category associated with its product over time. So they're often kind of the first or the alternative choice that's associated when you get down to the choice set between two different, or the decision set between two different products. A pioneer often is included in that choice as the comparison. Other firms have been very successful with saying to get to innovators, that can be a very expensive proposition. So instead of going after the innovators, we're gonna sort of lay back and offer subsequent, learn from what the innovators do, take that learning and go more after the early and late majority. That's where 70% of the market is. So you can do a follower strategy and accomplish that fairly well. And then you can have strategies that focus. The last component is the laggards. So this laggard strategy is when generic or private label products started, they were often thought of as more focused on laggards. Of course, they've sort of expanded out over time now. And they're often considered as focused on laggards more because their technology that would be in a particular generic product would be lacking versus kind of the state-of-the-art product. So a laggard product could be developed in, say, lesser expensive manufacturing plants. So you could develop that technology or offer that product at a lower cost at getting it out there. And essentially the buyers that you're often trying to attract with a laggard strategy are very price-sensitive buyers. So if you can lower your cost structure, you probably wouldn't do much promotions whatsoever with the laggard strategy. But you can essentially think about how people differ and use that as a means of helping you to develop different strategies. It's about innovations differ. So innovations differ in the sense of how superior is it to existing products? Does it have a relative advantage, right? And these things all kind of affect the rate of adoption. So if you do really well, if you have a stronger or a superior product, or you have an advantage versus the product you're replacing, then that accelerates how quickly the market will adopt it. A second component is trialability, which was really sort of the last component that he talked about, but how easy is it for a product to be tried? That's trialability is also called divisibility. Compatibility is how well does the product, the new innovation, sort of map on with the potential adopters' values or experience. And complexity is getting at kind of how easy is it to use. Communicability gets at the notion of how easy is it for people to communicate different products or the value of different products. So an example of communicability that was difficult was really TiVo. So when TiVo first came out, TiVo was the first DVR brand. When TiVo introduced its product, it was seen as kind of a competitor versus the old tape recorders, the old VCRs. So this is the old VHS and Betamax formats. And so if I could record it on a different product, then what value does TiVo offer? So it became difficult for people to sort of communicate. Well, what you can do is pause the television so that if you're watching something, maybe a action movie or a horror movie or whatever, and you don't want your son who's 12 years old and walking in to see that, you can pause the movie, have your conversation, then go back to Freddy Krueger. Right?
My life's changed. This is a revolution. No more being told what to watch, when to watch it. This is TV your way, in your time. TiVo!
Never miss a thing again. It recommends all the shows you like. Record an entire series with one press of a button. Now I watch Home and Away when I want to.
You want sport? Too easy. Just tell it what you want. You can even pause and rewind live TV. Better luck next time, mate. Now the power is in our hands.
No one's going to tell us what to do, when to do it, because we're Australian. Yeah! And we're taking control. Yeah! Join the revolution. Yeah! TiVo! TV your way!
Take control. TiVo. TV your way.
Give me that.
Sorry, love.
So these are sort of some of the communicability issues. Complexity This gets into how easy a particular product is to use. So what's often used in technology markets is how useful is a particular product and how easy is it to use, right? So usefulness and ease of use become kind of important characteristics. So compatibility and complexity are often thought of as the two dominant of these 5 in technology markets. But all of these are essentially just different ways to think about how do I accelerate the rate of adoption of innovations. And acceleration to the rate of adoption of innovations essentially moves you into the growth curve of the product life cycle much quicker. So getting to growth is essentially an idea of how do I get to profitability quicker. So making your products perform well against those 5 dimensions helps quite a bit. Okay, so introductory strategies, a lot of times kind of come down to the notion of promotion and price. So if you're promoting a product, you can kind of go high on the promotional spending or low on the promotional spending. As you introduce a product, you can kind of go high on price and low on price. So these 2 elements of the marketing mix often become focal elements in introductory strategy. So if I'm high on promotion and high on price, that's called a rapid skimming strategy. And the conditions that are associated with rapid skimming is often that there's a large market that's unaware of it. What I'm thinking when I do this is I think my market actually will value my product, that I'll win kind of the value competition versus existing competitors. And if I can win the value competition versus existing competitors, then one of my real keys is to try to get the product out there and make them aware of it. So if I can kind of get the product out there and make them aware of it, I do that essentially through promotion. So promotion achieves the awareness objective. And the reason I'm skimming is that this market is maybe not so price sensitive. This component of the market is not as price sensitive. So I've got some opportunity to kind of go after it, go after kind of a higher margin. So I go with kind of the higher price strategy. So if I'm doing a low or a slow skimming strategy, this is low promotion, high price. So this strategy kind of works under those conditions. The competition here is not imminent, so I don't have to kind of achieve awareness so quickly. I've got more time, and time is on my hands, so I kind of lay off on the cost associated with promotion. I go with a slow skimming strategy. If I go high on promotion and low on price, that's basically what's going to eat into my margins the most, right, out of this scenario, because now I've kind of got higher cost and I've kind of got a lower price that I'm offering it to the market in. So the conditions that favor that is that there's a very price-sensitive market. You've got strong competition, but also a factor that comes into kind of rapid penetration strategies is often an economies of scale argument. So an economies of scale argument says that if I can get a certain scale or a certain number, a certain amount of demand, that helps me in a lot of times on the production side. Production and distribution becomes easier, so a rapid penetration strategy would fit with those market conditions. Then a slow penetration strategy is kind of a large market that's highly aware of the product, so I don't need to do a lot necessarily to make them aware. It's a price-sensitive market, and there's some potential competition. So these are 4 introductory strategies that are important. So thinking about price and promotion on introductory strategies become important. Okay, on pricing, this is sort of my favorite pricing slide from the semester, right? So this is sort of the value pricing thermometer. So the value pricing thermometer kind of gets at the idea, if you look at the product price, that's on the left-hand side of the vertical axis. Product price is sort of the lever that you have to move up and down. And as you move that lever up and down, you're affecting the firm's incentive to sell, right? That's the price minus the cost of goods sold. But you're increasing the consumer's incentive to purchase. So often your decisions in moving price are kind of, in order to achieve exchange, you need both the buyer and the seller to have some incentive, some value out of the exchange. So you're often trying to figure out how do I kind of achieve value and how do I distribute the value that's available to kind of get to that outcome. So this is I like this slide, but I like to think about it from the perspective of product price going up and down. How do you kind of use that lever to kind of distribute the value that's available in a particular offering between the buyer and the seller?
All the best with your efforts to master marketing and sales. I'm Gary Hunter, and I hope you have a great day.